the day before was not only taken off of Steam, but the development company itself shut down only 3 days after its massive early access release. The audacity of this company baffles me. The way they lied just straight up about so many things, plain as day. I don't know if they thought they were gonna get away with it or... What's up guys, it's Guhi here. I wake up and choose violence every single day, so I'm actually excited to spill all the tea for you guys in this video. But first, a look at what actually released. My buddy Kopak picked the short stick here at the Goo Crew and unfortunately had to go through this experience to be able to cover the game for this channel. Had it been up to any of us personally, without content in mind, nobody would have bought this game. I want to make that clear. That sucker is past his 2-hour return window, so here's what we have to show for it.
Like many of you, when I first watched the gameplay trailers, I was pretty hyped for this game. The environment looked incredible, and the systems shown off, like quick crafting, vehicle repairs, stealth, and vaulting, made the gameplay look very promising. The problem was the developer's history in making bad games. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but if you're curious, we already made a fun video kind of explaining the history of the company, so feel free to check that out. We can put a link to that in the description below. Now, quick disclaimer before I continue. A lot of the issues I encountered very early on that sort of made my computer freak out also ruined some of the early footage, so I won't be able to showcase all of the issues I had, but I mean, the Steam reviews kind of tell the tale already, so it's not that hard to believe. So to be objective about the game, I put aside any bias I had and then booted it up. This was my first experience. Immediately after the intro cutscene, when your character stands up, the game spawned me inside of the wall and I had no way to get out. My only option was to jump into the abyss behind me and hope that my character would die and respawn somewhere outside of the wall. Unfortunately, that did not work because I just fell for a few minutes into nothingness, and eventually I said fuck it, logged out and deleted the character and made a new one. So I made a second character and spent about 20 or so minutes trying to log into a server and no luck. I could not get in. Every 20 or 30 minutes or so, I would log in and see if I can get in again, and still no luck. My one chance to play on day one was ruined because the game spawned me into a wall, so I was a tad bit on the salty side, but maybe day 2 will be better? Spoiler, it was not. I did manage to actually get into the game and move a whole 4 feet before I had the audacity to change a graphics setting, which gave my computer an aneurysm and I had to reboot. Okay, maybe that was a fluke. Let's try again. This is when I found out the game doesn't even let me switch to my monitor's native resolution at 1440p, instead defaults to 1080p. Okay, 1080p, that's fine, I can deal with that. Let's switch some other settings and see if we can get the game to run right. How fucking dare I even think about touching those settings, because now the only option is 720p. I cannot switch it higher than that. And the game still runs like shit. Maybe resetting everything to default will fix this problem. Well, fool my ass 3 times, shame on me. Now my game is rapidly switching back and forth between full screen and windowed mode. And I did that for a solid 2 or so minutes before I said fuck it and force closed it. Being slightly more annoyed, I took a little break, made some food, and came back, and there was a small patch. Surely this patch will resolve at least some of these issues, right? My surprise, it looked like it kinda did. Now I can at least switch between full screen and windowed mode without my computer having a stroke. But once you touch the resolution, it goes full potato and limits you back down to 720p. By the way, on a 32-inch 1440p display, 720p looks really bad. At this point, I'm just thinking, whatever, I just want to play so I can finally experience this game and deal with the literal eye strain. I shit you not, by the end of this session, my eyes actually hurt. Okay, we're not off to a great start, but I promise you, it does not get any better. This game gives you a really short tutorial where it takes you to each of the NPCs and they sort of show you the systems. One of the first things it has you do is use a bench to assemble your weapon. The little icon that's supposed to show you where to go never appeared, but finding the bench was easy enough, and assembling the weapon was also pretty easy. Holy shit, something in the game that actually worked. Okay, things are looking up. Maybe there's hope after all. The icon showing me where the next step is updated, so I kept chugging along through the tutorial. But I noticed the objective tracker on the right side didn't update. So now the tracker and the go here icon are telling me to do 2 completely different things. Ugh, okay, fine. I just need to get into the world and experience the game. You get to the point where the game introduces you to the ranch. This is your little slice of paradise where you get to build a house and furnish it however you want. And to be honest, I thought this was kind of cool. I didn't mess around with it that much, to be honest, because at the beginning of the game, it's super limiting. You can't really buy anything until you get the in-game currency, but it felt intuitive and pretty well done. Shortly after the ranch, you get the option to head out into the open world. Finally, maybe now I can see what this game is actually like, and hopefully I'll get to do some PvP also. The game spawns you in the middle of the city with absolutely zero direction other than a voice line, so I just kind of wander around, looting everything I can get my grubby little hands on. After about 20 minutes, I noticed the world feels extremely dead, and not in the fun, infected zombies everywhere dead kind of way. just emptiness. So I keep running around looting everything I can find, killing the extremely rare zombie that decides to shamble in my direction, but nothing even remotely interesting is happening. So I figured it's time to find some other players and do some PvP and try to spice it up a little bit. I then spent the next 30 minutes or so running towards gunshot noises and didn't find a single other player. Later in the day, I logged back in to show somebody else the game, and I spent another 15 or 20 or so minutes doing the exact same thing and still didn't find a single player. This makes me think that the gunshot noises in the background are actually just ambient noises and not actual players. And this is sort of their attempt to make a dead world feel alive. I have no way to prove if this is true, so if anybody knows, let me know in the comments. After a while, I gave up on my quest to use other players as loot surrogates and decided to try a mission. Surely this will inject a little bit of spice into a bland game, right? Go get 3 batteries? Okay, easy enough. Let me just go to this marked location on the map and see how this plays out. Well, it turns out that all you do for these missions is the exact same thing that you've been doing the whole time. Loot random shit. This realization was the final bead being ripped out, like you're trying to launch a Beyblade with vicious intent. Okay, now how do I get the fuck out of here so I can be done with this game? Opening up the map, I see an icon that looks like it could be the extraction location, so I start running. After about 5 minutes or so, I get there, and it's just a red flare sitting on the ground that you interact with. You get a voice line saying, "Stay still, our boys are on their way." Then you get loaded back into Woodbury so you can offload your amazing loot and then do the whole thing all over again. Something I forgot to mention is how poorly this game actually runs. The entire time I had frame spikes and dips from 150 FPS down into the teens. On average, I was getting like 30 to 40 FPS if I was lucky. And keep in mind, I'm running at 720p because the game will not let me switch to anything higher than that. Buying this game is the equivalent of trusting a fart and you shit your pants. Like, you knew you had bubble guts and you went for it anyways. Like those SpongeBob ice cream bars. What you were expecting versus what you actually got.
Like Kopak mentioned before, we already covered all of the pre-launch drama in this video right here. If you've already seen it, you'll know that we totally called it. The dev's track record was horrendous, and yet still, somehow, some way, people came barking in the comment section defending the game. It blows my mind how people can blindly defend companies like this even with the evidence stacked against them, but I get it to a certain degree. They wanted everything to be true and hope that they got the game that was promised. And here at the Goo Crew, we were hoping to be wrong as much as the next guy. The game had so much potential to be really cool and unique experience. But given the latest news, well, it was without a doubt a scam. The devs even had the audacity to publish this before the game's release. I'll leave it here on screen for you to pause and read, but I want to highlight some comments here. To our future player who will dive into this game on December 7th, we made this for you so that you can enjoy the game and it becomes a celebration. Together, we will continue improving the game and adding content. This was a lie. To the person who didn't believe in us, I'm not going to read all this, but they weren't wrong. To our supporter, no matter what, thank you for protecting us from injustice and fakes. This game was injustice and fakes. It's really sad because they write everything in such a genuine way, you almost want to feel bad for them and want to believe that they had good intentions with this game. But then you look at everything else and it's so clear that this is a money grab scheme. Before the game's release, they had an early access Q&A. Let me read some of that for you as well. Approximately how long will this game be in early access? We're hoping to be in early access for around 6 to 8 months. The game needed at least 2 years of work before it got to a point where it should have been released at all. What is the current state of the early access version? We have implemented everything we wanted for the game based on our vision of post-pandemic survival experience. I actually believe that. I believe that that is all the effort they ever wanted to put into the game. Next, we'll look at some publisher statements after the game's release, and it got overwhelming negative reviews. To all the Day Before players, as the investor of the Day Before, we would like to provide some updates on the current situation around the game. We are sorry for the fact that the game didn't meet the expectations of the majority of players. Today, we will work with Steam to open up refunds for any players who choose to make a refund. At the very least, this was available, and I'm going to put a link down in the comments below in case you did pass the 2-hour mark and you're still looking to get a refund. I believe there is a way to do so. I believe Steam is trying to make this right, but take it with a grain of salt because I haven't confirmed it myself. Last but not least, the nail in the coffin, the company's shutdown statement. Today, we announced the closure of Fntastic Studio. Unfortunately, the Day Before has failed financially, and we lack the funds to continue. All income received is being used to pay off our debts to all our partners. We apologize if we didn't meet your expectations. We did everything within our power, but unfortunately miscalculated our capabilities. Creating games is an incredibly challenging endeavor. I feel like you should know that before you get into the game creating business as a development studio. Like, I get it if you're doing it as a hobby and you're a single dev and you're taking on this challenge and you realize, oh man, It's harder than I thought it was going to be. But when you create an entire development studio, you've had games in the past, you know what game development is like, and you still have the audacity to make all of these crazy promises for the game. On top of that, all of the scummy shit they did before the game's release, which was covered in the previous video. It's just like, I can't. There's no believing any of this bullshit. Anyway, a huge thank you to Kopak for taking the L on this one. Bye.
That's it for the video. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button. As always, the Goo Crew thanks you for watching. My name is Kopak, and I'll catch you later.